I've been thinking about this a lot lately. My history with video game consoles. What's my favorite? What's the best system of all time, according to me? Right? Of course, everybody's opinion is going to be different. Everybody's experience is going to be different. And, my life, I've had tons of different consoles, right? Granted, a lot of them, most of them have been Nintendo in most of these generations, but that's kind of where my thoughts started coming in with this. Does Nintendo rank high for me as far as my favorite systems of all time? Because when I started looking at these generations of consoles, I'm like, you know what? Nintendo really has ticked me off. They've pissed me off in a few generations here where I really did not enjoy what they did. So I wanted to kind of go through this, hear what you guys have to say, your history in gaming as well. Because way back in like the early 80s, I started out with Atari 2600. I'm not going to dwell on, each system individually, just kind of starting out little by little. But, 2600 was what it was. I was out there in New Jersey playing in my basement and a little black and white TV. We moved to California like mid to late 80s. Got an NES when we moved to California. I remember the first games I played was like Super Mario, Duck Hunt, Kung Fu. I was addicted to that freaking game. Metroid was one of the first games I played. That was a bitch, man. I remember like being lost. Like, what the hell is this game? But I eventually beat it, really enjoyed it. Eventually played Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, got addicted to role-playing games. Those were the first role-playing games I ever played. Eventually got Super Nintendo. That was the third console I ever owned. I'm not going to talk about handhelds. I've had like every single handheld Nintendo has made and enjoyed all of them, not considering the Virtual Boy. Don't really have anything negative to say about any of their handhelds. Virtual Boy aside, obviously, have had all of Sony's handhelds. They've kind of screwed up with what they've done with those. Awesome handhelds, but we're not talking about the handhelds, just consoles, right? But eventually got into the Super Nintendo. I did not have one when it first came out, but I had a friend at the time who got one day one. I remember staying up with him all night playing Super Mario World till we beat that game. It was freaking amazing. I couldn't afford one at the time, but I remember collecting cans, freaking go to the newspaper machine, pull on the thing, see if change would fall out, collect the change, go to the payphones, see if there's change in there. Sometimes you get a quarter, you go to the newspaper machine, buy a newspaper, but you'd open it up, take all of them. Hey, statute of limitations is up, dude. Take all of them, stand out in front of the store, newspapers, sell them bitches, right? Hell yeah, make a couple bucks, right? I remember getting enough money to like put a Super Nintendo on layaway. And that's what I did, like a Super Nintendo in a game or two, something like that. Put it on layaway, bought it after a month or two, and freaking loved the hell out of that system, man. Played a lot of role-playing games, but a lot of other stuff as well. Really got hooked on, Squaresoft games at the time. And that's something that at that point, it was like, holy crap, I love this stuff. Role-playing games, right? Eventually, I was like, at that time, I was like, dude, can't wait for whatever Nintendo puts out next. But I remember in the mid-90s, when the Sega Saturn came out, we'd seen it like on display at like Babbage's or something. And I forget what game was on display, but it was like, holy crap, this is the future gaming. I never had a Sega console before. Had friends who had like a Sega Genesis. Remember having one friend who had like a Master System playing that stuff. Genesis was cool. Didn't really care about the Master System at the time, but never had a Sega system. I wasn't like a hater of any of those systems at the time. There was definitely people in those console wars during that era, but it was never like, oh, I'll never have a Sega system. Just couldn't afford, to have multiple systems, right? But I remember my brother, I think it was maybe his birthday or something, wound up getting one. And, we wound up having it and playing the Saturn. So that was like the fourth system that we had in our house. Next system after that was the Nintendo 64. I was amped up. That was the next system that I bought with my own money. Super Nintendo was the first one that outright bought with my own money. Nintendo 64, whole other crazy story. I've talked about this like a long time ago, where the store wanted to rip me off. It was M&M Games. They still exist. They still exist out in the Upland, California. I put a deposit, like, holy crap, pre-order. Dude was like, I remember going back, they had like a Japanese one there. They wouldn't let nobody play it, but it was like, dude, I can't wait for this. And they're like, oh, whoa, hey, we're gonna need like some extra money, and the price just went up and all this stuff. I was like, this dude's trying to rip me off, man. And then the Toys R Us down the street, they had pre-orders, and it was like, no, the price is this. And got it pre-ordered at Toys R Us, and then went back like, hey, dude, you need to give me my money back. Like, you guys are like upping the price, doing all this crazy shit. You know, a whole to do with that. Got the money back. But then when the system came out, was amped up, dude. The future of gaming, man. Nintendo 64. And I remember that night, staying up all night playing Super Mario 64. I swear, an alien or something came down, was staring at me through my window in my bedroom. I talked about this before, dude. I may have been abducted that night. I don't freaking know, dude. I'm not on drugs. I'm just telling you, dude. At that time, not right now, not back then. It was weird, dude. Maybe we'll have to do a whole video talking about that experience, but it was freaking strange, man. But, okay, the whole Nintendo 64 thing, man. I was blown away at first. But, like, over time, it was like, what is this damn system, man? Like, there's no games coming out. The only stuff I care about is stuff Nintendo's putting out. Minus, there was some good stuff from other companies, but few and far between. If you were a role-playing game fan from the Super Nintendo era, you weren't eating at all. Like, you weren't getting anything. Don't give me that you got Quest 64 nonsense, you know, because that wasn't the worst game in the world, but it was no Final Fantasy. It was no Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest. That did not hold anybody over. Give me a freaking break, dude. You weren't getting shit on the Nintendo 64 if you were a, role-playing game fan. If you're a fighting game fan, you weren't getting much of anything either. You got a few things here and there, you know. But it was like, hey, man, when people had the PS1, I remember having friends who were like, man, I'm playing this. This is freaking awesome, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, I got so pissed off that it was like, I abandoned ship. I'll be honest. Nintendo 64, I was like, forget this noise. Yeah, I love Mario Kart. I loved, Zelda Ocarina of Time. I did not play Majora's Mask because by the time that game came out, I abandoned ship. I was done. I remember I had a friend where I worked at the time that was bragging about how awesome the game was. And I'm like, I don't care, dude. Fuck the Nintendo. That's the way I felt. I felt betrayed at that time. I jumped ship to the PlayStation 1 when Final Fantasy VII came out. Didn't have PS1 when it came out. I got one the day Final Fantasy VII came out. And that was like, at that time, I was like, it's over. Forget you, Nintendo. I'm done with you. But I didn't learn my lesson. Down the road, right? Dreamcast came out. Amazing system. Then PS2 came out. Went to that. Dreamcast was over. PS2 was freaking awesome. That's almost where things ended for me with the PlayStation. It's just kind of like amazing system. Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy 11, Dragon Quest 8, Kingdom Hearts. There's a lot of awesome stuff for PS2. Holy crap. I remember getting the GameCube. Like, GameCube, I know there's GameCube fans out there. I know people are going to hate me for this. But the GameCube, I know it's an awesome system. Maybe it's just the time of my life. Maybe things were just different, for me compared to you. But I did not enjoy the GameCube. Not complete. There was games I liked, but it was just kind of a system that I got it the day it came out. I was excited. Went to the mall, got it the day it came out, went home, played it a bit, and then just set it aside. It felt like the Nintendo 64 for me, to be honest with you. Like, I wasn't being blessed with, Final Fantasy games and whatnot and stuff that, I expected, like I hoped for. I was like, maybe they'll come back. And sure, tiny bit they did, but not fully, Like, it sucked, dude. It sucked. Mario Kart Double Dash was like it for me. Mario Sunshine with that stupid talking flood thing. That was the first time where I was like, I don't like this Mario game. I've grown to like that game. Don't get your titties twisted. I've grown to like that game, but at that time I hated it. I've grown to love it. At that time I hated it. GameCube, out of here. Xbox 360 and PS3. I remember PS3. Where the hell do I have that thing? I still have this. Hold on. It's kind of weird for me. I remember living in an apartment, and I had this little piggy bank. It's blue, but my green screen's fucking it up. But it was my PS3 fund piggy bank. Like I markered him up, like, you know, drew on him and stuff. PS3 fund, bam! Because, you know, PS3 was freaking expensive, dude. I saved up. It was just kind of a joke, you know. I had a job and whatnot, but it was like so expensive. It was like, I'll never be able to afford it. So I remember like putting it on the shelf. I'm gonna save for that PS3. But I got a PS3 like maybe a week after it came out, and it was cool, dude. There's a lot of cool stuff. Didn't feel like the PS2 for me. The 360, I got it before the PS3. It did come out, you know, before the PS3. I had the 360, and I remember like, oh my God, this shit's amazing. I remember playing like Fight Night. That was one of the games I loved, Fight Night, dude. And then like there was like this, I was impatient, I think. Period of time, like nothing was coming out. I was like, man, forget this damn Xbox. Like, forget Xbox. And I got rid of my Xbox. I sold it to a friend, actually. And I was like, I'm done with them. PS3, PlayStation 4 life type of deal, right? And then when Gears of War came out, my friend called me. You got to check this game out, dude. I went over to his house, and I'm like almost like a little kid, like looking up. Oh, my God. I ran out and bought another 360. I was like, holy crap. PS3, 360, I kind of flip-flopped back and forth on those, right? Next thing you know, the Wii came out. The Wii, another strange story with Nintendo. The day the Wii came out, we're living in some apartments, and this dude, he got into a fight with his girlfriend, and he set the gas off, and he was going to blow up the apartments to kill himself and his girlfriend. This freaking nuts. We get home. I didn't know all this was going on. The police had like SWAT team, all this crazy crap. They had it's in the newspaper if you look it up. The dude had like the police blocked everything off. We had to park like blocks away. I didn't know what was going on. They didn't tell us. They said you can't come down the street. We like freaking Metal Gear Solid like snuck in and I started booking it. And there's like police and SWAT people with rifles and shit all posted up outside like our apartment. Like we were in like these little cottage homes, and the rest of the apartments were like normal apartments that were up. Like we paid a little extra to live like separate from the riffraff, I guess. I don't know. But like it was still all together, right? But we were a little separate. And all these they're like looking at us, these fucking rifles. I'm like, oh shit. We go in the house, hook up the Wii, freaking I kept looking out the curtain and stuff. Eventually they arrest this guy, and it was like, man, we risked a lot that day for the Wii, for one of the most disappointing systems in my entire life. I hate the Wii. To this day, I hate the Nintendo Wii. Being forced to, like, I hate that, dude. I hate it. The only redeeming thing for the Nintendo Wii for me was Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, the Mario Galaxy games, and then the system after those games turned into just Virtual Console. That was it. Playing old school games. That was it. Over with. And then the Wii U turned into the same damn thing, just Virtual Console. It was boo-boo. That system was boo-boo. After the Wii, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever buy a Nintendo system again, right? It was done. I was done. The Wii U, forget that noise. PS4, Xbox One, I cannot remember anything I played on the Xbox One. I just can't. I can't remember it. I just don't remember what I played. Probably some Halo stuff. I don't know. PS4, I remember playing. This was like my early days on YouTube, which was more focused on retro gaming. So yeah, while I had the Xbox One, PS4, like what the hell was I playing? PS4, I remember Dragon Quest XI, Tukiden Kiwami, I played a lot of, and Diablo 3. But I also played Diablo 3 on PC when it came out. So it's kind of weird, but yeah, I don't know. That's kind of like where things started falling apart for me, where it was like, just play retro games, man. That's it. And then the Switch came out. The Switch killed it, dude. Like, I can't believe it. Like, the Switch, one of the most underpowered systems, like, for the past couple generations, is an Android tablet that was, like, behind the times the day it came out, has killed it. One of the best-selling consoles of all time. One of my favorite systems, not my top favorite system, but holy crap. That came out, PS5, Xbox Series. I do have, love and hate for all these systems, but I mean, the Switch has killed it this generation. PS5 and Xbox, just kind of like, what's the point? My opinion right now. But we got to finish this video. It's going on for way too long here, damn it. But as far as my favorite systems of all time, oh my God, this is a tough one. It'll probably change at some point, but I'm gonna have to say, just based on like, hey, if I were to just be stuck on an island somewhere, what systems would I be fine with? If I had to pick 4 systems, Super Nintendo. If it was like you could only have one, it would be Super Nintendo. If I could have 2, Super Nintendo, PS1. I'm done. If it could be 3, those 2, right? Super Nintendo, PS1, and then Switch would be my 3rd favorite system of all time. My 4th, this is a tough one. I want to say NES. There's just a lot of stupid fun games on the NES. Like I play NES a lot. So yeah, Super Nintendo number 1, PS1 number 2, Nintendo Switch number 3, NES number 4. I don't know what number 5 would go to. Honestly, like, I don't know. It's tough, dude. What would number 5 be? Probably Dreamcast. There you go. Let me know what you guys think. What's your top 5 consoles of all time? Bye.